hilarious. Welcome to the Midday Show. I'm Jeff Everett.
He's whining. We haven't even started yet.
I am whining. Before we dive in, we're going to touch a couple of local stories, one of them being at Geisinger Hospital, another one here at Montoursville School District. Before we dive into those topics and then get into Quizzo, Mark, how are you feeling? Most important question of every day. How are you feeling?
I am ready. I'm intellectually ready to rise to the occasion.
Are you over the Cowboys yet? Like, are you over that?
That we got screwed?
I don't want like a 30-second answer, but like, yes or no, are you over it?
Well, I mean, you have to, in sports, you got to turn the page and go on. But you will be reminded of it over and over and over that we won week one and it doesn't show it.
Because you didn't win.
Because we got screwed.
Because you didn't win. Yes, we got John Mackey coming back for Quizzo again today. So we'll get to that in a second. Beforehand, we were NorthcentralPa.com. We went down to Geisinger and Danville today. We're going to have a lot of coverage on that this afternoon. Some videos, some photos, some different stories. But before we get going, we'll open up with the WNEP headline. About 150 people turned out in Montour County Tuesday morning to protest Geisinger's new mandate requiring all employees to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Workers tell us they don't want to be forced to get a vaccine. Officials at Geisinger have said 82% of their employees are either vaccinated or have been approved for an exemption. The remaining must be vaccinated by October 15th or risk being terminated. Before you and I kind of dive into some of this stuff, it was also on PA homepage. They listed just a couple of things. They had some quotes that I wanted to mention as well. Bill Huntington, who was a protester, said, "I'm out here just supporting these brave frontline workers who are about to lose their jobs in a matter of weeks." Huntington is referring to Geisinger's new policy saying all employees must be vaccinated by November 1st and risk being done October 15th. People who were heroes last year, who we were all thanking, are not villains because they won't take this injection. It is inconceivable, said Huntington. Some employees have filled out an exemption form in order to avoid getting the vaccine. Richardson, who was also there, she was another protester, said she is willing to lose her job if they deny her exemption request. You can read both those stories on WNEP. You can read them on PA homepage. And this afternoon, you can see a ton of coverage at NorthcentralPa.com. I don't like, you and I talked a little bit earlier this morning about it. And that what you and I discussed is certainly way more opinion based than factual based. So for now, just sticking to kind of the facts of it, 82% to me is a lot. I think for 82% of people to be vaccinated, I think it's very clear that the hospital is near the number that they would like to be at. So to me, like when this first started, there was this idea of like, there were going to be massive people being let go, massive shortages, things like that. But to me, like this doesn't sound as bad as what they had initially interpreted it being.
No, I mean, it comes to an emotional side. It comes to a legal side. And the questions become, is it the right of the hospital? Because we always talk about the rights. What are our rights?
Right.
And, well, what are the other people's rights? And it is certainly your right not to get vaccinated. The question becomes, what does the hospital then have the right to say, then you can't work here anymore? Where do the legal lines end? And from a logical side, from just an intellectual side, it's a very fair question. From the emotional side of it, it does seem crazy, might not be the word, that if these people were on the front lines, these frontline workers for the last year and a half, and if they've gone through it unvaccinated successfully, I mean, they're obviously still alive. Some of them probably never even got it. And now we're telling them they need to, like, that just doesn't seem, there seems something out of kilter with that.
It does. So the chief administrative officer for Geisinger's Central Region made the following statement this morning. "We support our employees and respect their right to voice their opinions. As we face another surge in COVID-19 infections and hospitalizations, the science is clear that the vaccine is our best hope to stop the spread of COVID-19 and prevent more dangerous and contagious variants from taking hold in our communities." So that was Megan Brocious, the chief administrative officer, part of her quote. You can see the rest of the quote on PA homepage, and you can also see the release that Geisinger put out. I will say the protest was peaceful. I spoke with our news editor earlier this morning, and she said for the most part, like it wasn't this, absurd thing. It wasn't, people weren't screaming, lunacy and things like that. People were hesitant to give quotes. It just seemed kind of like a solidarity of kind of like, we're here to peacefully protest what we believe is right. And I think like you and I have talked about this. I mean, a lot of that, it's going to come down to like, I wanted to avoid kind of like mask, anti-mask, vaccine, anti-vaccine. I think where we're getting to the point now is kind of like you hinted at this, like what are your legal rights and what are you actually what can they actually mandate you to do as a citizen of the United States? And I think that's, I don't want to call it a fascinating term because fascinating has like a positive connotation to it, but that is kind of where we're at now. We've kind of lingered our way through the initial debates and now we're getting up into the actual civil discourse of like, what are you legally held to and what can somebody actually mandate on your life?
Well, one of the things that's interesting is you mentioned that with people reluctant to give quotes is I've heard of people, not directly to me, but I've heard of people that we have on our staff that have covered some of these protests, and people at the protests have said, "Don't take my picture." So it's also that aspect because the world is so, because society is so volatile right now, depending on what side you're on any topic that ends up being political.
Yeah,
that there are people who are like, I want to be at the protest, but I don't want people to know I was at the protest except for the people who I was at the protest with. And that kind of defeats the whole purpose. If you're going to show up and support, show up and support. But don't show up and say, don't take my picture.
For the most part, the only disagreement I have with you on that is that there is this idea of like, there is an after effect to your life, whether you want to show up and support somebody. And in this case, like there are people that could lose, like now, like to show up to a protest, your picture's taken, you could lose your job. Like there's all these different variances. So for the most part, like if you're gonna stand up for something, I agree with you, right? Like stand up for it. I just think we're at a world now where to be all in, like you can be supportive without being all in because the world almost forces you to be that way. Like I can be all in on a subject, but I can love my job and not want to lose it at the same time. Do you see where I'm going with that?
And I would suspect
go ahead.
That people who aren't, as long as the cause isn't overly extreme, and as long as you do it civilly and respectfully, you're going to be fine. If you show up at a white supremacist march and your employer lets you go, I don't think you can be shocked for that. If you're at a rioting protest and they catch you on video throwing rocks through windows, you can probably be fired for that. And I don't think anyone should be shocked over these things.
Well, no, I don't think they should be shocked over these things either. I would just say, like, in the world we live in today, you just don't know. Like, even when you go to what you believe is going to be a peaceful protest, you just never know what the person in front of you and the person behind you is going to do. And one thing leads to another, and all of a sudden something turns into something you didn't want to, and your picture's involved, and you just don't know. So I don't have so much of an issue of people being reluctant to give a quote. I don't have as much of an issue with people being reluctant to take a photo. I do think that there's this idea of, I don't want to call it, like, it's not judgment. That's too simple of a word. But there is this idea of, like, you want to be involved with something, but you also don't necessarily, like, believe you've earned or deserved the repercussions that come along with it.
Earned or deserved. That's a very interesting way to state it. Yes, I'm not disagreeing with it.
If I show up, and now we're kind of going off into a side topic, but I mean, I went through the first 30 years of my life where, like, protesting wasn't relevant. Like, maybe that's the wrong way to put it, but, like, I went through the first 30 years of my life where, like, to see a protest was kind of like a thing. Yeah. Whereas now in the last 3 years, I feel like
one a week.
I feel like there's one a week and there's people trying to stand up for what they believe in. So now, like, we're in this world where if protesting is now relevant, and we don't really know, like, we know the basic constructs of protesting, but we don't really, there are people who, like, are going to this for the first time in their life, and, like, They don't know what's about to happen. They don't know how this could turn or where their face could end up or what. So I think the gap between like wanting to stand up for something but being afraid to show your face has never been further not related, if that makes sense. Like it used to be hypocritical. I think now though you're almost in a way like you kind of have to. Like I don't know how else.
Well, you just not show up.
Just not show up to the protest.
Yeah.
Even if they want to stand up for it. So the last thing here, this was from the Geisinger article as well. Police escorted protesters as they marched from Weiss to Geisinger Medical Center in Danville. Danville Police Chief John Schlenk said, "We're just here to make sure everyone is safe, making sure no one is in traffic getting hurt in any way, shape, or form. We're going to help them get to the campus. That's where they're going and want to be. So we're going to get them there safely." The story continues on again. Very few people were actually loud as they were marching. However, there was a reluctancy to give quotes. I think I don't want to call this the new norm, but I think we are just beginning. I think all the debating and everything leading up to masking and vaccination, all of this, I think we are now getting to the point where this is the debate now, is what is legally going to be accepted and what can actually be mandated and not mandated.
Yes.
I think the corny conversations that you and I have in the morning where we kind of like are thinking out loud and we throw our thoughts back and forth, I think we're now to the point where like it's just going to be about semantics and legalities, and it's, what is actually going to be allowed to be mandated and not.
None of my conversations are corny.
None.
They are highly intellectual.
No, I hear you.
I'll leave it at that.
The only other story we were going to touch on locally, this is at Penn Live. You can find it. 14 parents are suing Montoursville School District in federal court to overturn the mask mandate. I'll try to read through just two quick points that I want in here. They contended in a suit filed Monday in U.S. Middle District Court that their superintendent had no authority on September 2nd to issue the mandate without the approval of the school board. In it, it also says they take particular issue with provisions that students without a mask will be left at a bus stop or in school where they are required to wait in the lobby until picked up. The issues were mandated after Acting State Health Secretary Allison Beam signed an order requiring masks to be worn inside K-12 school buildings and early learning programs effective September 7th.
So here's the meat and potatoes of it. The state, what was her title? The State Secretary of Health.
Health Secretary.
State Health Secretary mandated it.
Yes.
Montoursville School District Superintendent mandated it. And they are now suing and saying that the superintendent did not have the authority to mandate it without school board approval. And that is essentially, again, back to the law.
Right.
That's what they're saying. She had to get the school board's approval. She obviously says the state mandated it. I have to follow the state mandates, and that's where it's going to go.
So the terminology that they're using, the parents are accusing the superintendent of stripping the school board of its authority to make changes to the health and safety plan and infer she is guilty of child abuse for interfering with the breathing of a child. The first half of that makes a lot more legal sense than the back end of that. I don't know legally how they're going to necessarily uphold the back end of that claim. But the first part of it, I'm curious to see how that actually plays out. That she restricted the school board from doing their duty, essentially.
And I'm sure the argument is going to be the state mandated it.
Yes.
And we have to follow the state mandates.
So what is the
It's not a state suggestion, it's a mandate.
What is the purpose of a school board?
Well, the school board makes functions with their own budget because each school district is slightly different than the other. So they have to make decisions about, what their budget is, where they're going to spend the money, what resources need allocated at certain buildings and things like that. That's going to be the argument on each side.
The other thing that we're getting to, the
other question, not to cut you off, I have no idea how quickly this is going to be.
Oh no, there's
because we know lawsuits that drag on for years.
Well, not only that, they can't be the only school district. I mean, there must be hundreds.
Right.
I mean, there must be so many right now going through the system. The last part of this that I will say is you and I talked months ago, and we talked about this idea of like the first time we went through this a year ago, it was top to bottom.
Ooh, we got to get to Mackey.
Yeah, we do. Okay, I'll shut up. Here we go. Quizzo.
Well, guys, I didn't mean it that quick. I just wanted to remind you.
No, we talked about earlier in the months this idea of like everything was handed out from the top to the bottom the first time we went through this. And I had said to you, I said, I really think this time, like, it's going to try to come from the bottom up. And I think the bottom's going to try to force, what happens. And I think what we're seeing now with Geisinger and with the Montourzo School District is that clash, right? People aren't as willing to go with what's being passed down from the top, and they're meeting. I think we're now in the middle. Like, we're finally hitting that clash of, regardless of what side you're on, that's what's happened.
And I think the state had planned on that, letting it come from the bottom up, but they didn't see this second surge coming.
Yeah.
And the Delta variant.
I don't disagree with that. All right, we are going to dive in to Quizzo. We're going to bring John Mackey on. I haven't had him on yet, so bear with me as we try to figure this out. How we do last week? I did pretty good last week.
You have been carrying us.
I kind of crushed it last
Ever
week
since like school started, you have intellectually picked up your game, and I have gone flat.
John, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
We're okay. We're good.
I'm just hoping to stay on the roster. I did get one last week.
Your spot is definitely in question right now.
It is. I am on the hot seat.
All right, John, we know you're in a rush today. We'll try to keep it as simple as possible for you. Go ahead and hit us with that first question.
All right, we're going to just get right into it today. Yeah. Question number 1. While it includes more than just this thing, what is the more common name for the human body's integumentary system?
This is going to be a rough day. I can tell you that already.
What is the most integumentary
system?
While it includes more than just this thing, which would be the common name for it, what is the more common name for the human body's integumentary system?
Integumentary. Is that like integrity?
I was thinking
skeletal.
Integral. I was going to say skeletal.
Skeletal. Let's say skeletal.
Is that what you were going with?
That's what I was going with because I'm an idiot and I have no better guess.
Skeletal.
Skeletal.
That is incorrect.
Okay, can I give you my second guess?
Second guess.
I was going to go with skin.
That would be the correct answer. Skin.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's actually the largest organ in the human body.
I did know that. Dang it. I suck.
It also includes, hair and all that other kind of stuff. So, all right, 0 for 1. Question number 2. I feel like this is probably a Mark question, but I don't know. We'll see. What is the name of guitar legend Stevie Ray Vaughan's band? What was the name of guitar legend Stevie Ray Vaughan's band?
They were Double Trouble.
Double Trouble. That's what I was going to say.
This is the answer?
Yeah. Double Trouble.
That's it. You guys got it. Double Trouble.
Knew it all along.
His brother was in the Fabulous Thunderbirds.
Never.
I can't remember what Stevie's.
Do you guys know how Stevie Ray Vaughan died?
No. Was it a plane crash?
Helicopter.
I was going to say all the Jim Croce's, who was the dude that Buddy Holly, like there were a lot. Lynyrd Skinner. There's a lot of. I didn't know it was a helicopter crash, but I figured so. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. His brother? I can't think of his brother's first name, but anyway, go ahead.
Question number 3. What sauce originated in Genoa and gets its name from the Italian for to pound or to crush?
Oh.
This sauce originated in Genoa and gets its name from the Italian for to pound or to crush.
What's the one Hollandaise sauce?
Hollandaise?
I don't even know what it is, but I've heard of it.
It's called. I think it's Hollandaise.
I just know it's a sauce. What other would be?
Italian. Marinara?
I mean, it could be. What would marinara to pound? Or you take a tomato, you pound it or crush. Yeah, let's go with
Let's
that.
say marinara sauce.
Good guess.
All right, let's say marinara.
All right, that is incorrect. The answer is pesto.
Do you like pesto? I don't love pesto.
I'm not a huge pesto guy either. John, you have a pesto
John hates
comment?
it so much he has no comment.
I'll be honest with you. I have stopped eating pasta like 4 years ago, so I'm really kind of indifferent to the sauces.
How have you survived?
Just fine. Yeah. Really, the only carbs I take into my body are through beer. So.
Good for you.
You have no bread?
No, not really. No. Cauliflower crust. Check it out. It's great.
It sounds awful.
No, it's actually, there's a really good one down at a local grocery store. I won't mention which one, but cauliflower crust. Yeah, it's the way to go.
Wow.
Anyway.
All right. Now I'm even more depressed. Let's move on.
Question number 4. Research in Motion was best known for developing what device? Research in Motion was best known for developing what device?
Research in Motion.
What's the thing that when you run and it keeps track of your
GPS?
Oh, that's not what I was thinking, but that might not be bad.
This one's tricky because there's no year, there's no
Research in Motion.
I mean, this is
Fitbit, I think, is what I was thinking.
Fitbit?
But GPS sounds better. Research in Motion.
What device? Like a drone? I'm trying to think of like motion research. I mean, robotics, obviously.
I like GPS.
Oh, you like GPS? Okay. The only other thing I would have is something in like the robotics field, because like Boston College and like place like that, they've done all the they've created all those have you seen the robot that's like a cat and it's insane. It's crazy.
All right. That's our official guest. The cat robot from Boston College. No? We're going to go with
Let's go with Mark's. We'll say GPS.
GPS. That is incorrect.
Oh my
The
goodness.
answer is the BlackBerry. The BlackBerry.
Oh, jeez. I never had a BlackBerry.
Who is Research in Motion?
That's the name of the company that developed the BlackBerry. Yeah.
Huh.
That was a tricky one. Yeah, maybe if there was a year in there, that might have helped.
I was like going through the scope. I was like going all the way back to like planes and all the way to like drones. Like I had no idea where that would fall into.
You could have told me it started with B and I wouldn't have got it.
Is this our worst attempt?
We got one.
You did get
We got 1.5 because skin
was close.
I was close. We got 1.5. We're not doing that bad. Do you want? I know you're pressed against the clock. Do you want to plug yourself real quick, or you want to?
Yeah, I mean it's same as last week. Monday nights we're at the Boom City, at Boom City. It's not the Boom City.
It's like the
Rusty Rail in Mifflinburg on Tuesdays at 6. Bullfrog Brewery 8:30 in Williamsport. That's tonight. Wednesdays 5:05 on Washington Boulevard at 7 p.m. Brickyard and Kimball's is now back as well. They are both at 9 p.m. on Wednesdays. And Thursdays, Hall's Landing, 9 o'clock, Town Tavern, Lewisburg, 7 o'clock.
Nice.
There you go.
All right. I mean, you guys need to get this one. If not, I think this might be your worst showing ever. One out of 5. So here we go. In what country can you visit the city of Timbuktu? In what country can you visit the city?
It's in Africa.
Timbuktu.
You know this one?
It is in Africa. I'm 100% sure it's in Africa. I'm 99% sure it's in Mali. I'm pretty sure it's Timbuktu.
I will say this. I have a real estate client who was in the Army. And he told me when we were looking at it, he's like, I'm one of the few people that that's ever been to Timbuktu. And he had a picture of himself because he was stationed somewhere over there. So that's why I knew it was in Africa. What'd you say?
I'm pretty sure it's Mali.
Okay.
My dad always used to joke. He worked for the private electric company. So when storms and stuff, he used to have to go out to the middle of nowhere, like Sylvania, like places just out there.
He's going to Timbuktu.
And he'd always say, I'm going to Timbuktu. So I'm pretty sure it's in Mali because I have this fascination with Timbuktu.
So it's either in Tioga County.
Yeah. It's either in like Western Bradford or it's in Mali, Africa.
We're going with Mali.
Well, you're correct. It's in Africa, and more specifically in Mali. You got it.
Look at that.
That was a redemption right there. 'Cause
We
that
are
was
not
rough.
as dumb as you thought.
That was rough there for about 8 minutes. That was bad.
Hey, listen, yeah, you were very close on skin.
This was tough. This was 400 level classes. You know,
Yeah.
thank God for Stevie Ray Vaughan. If you don't know, one of the most fun songs you could ever. If the house is rocking, just listen to it. Well, I'll play it for you as soon as we're done here.
Right.
And Pride and Joy. Just crank those two out. Stevie was a legend.
Flooded Down in Texas, another good one.
I don't know that one. I'll have to listen to that one.
Check that one out. Good song. All right. Hey, listen, guys. Sorry, this is a quick one today, but lots going on here at Quizzo headquarters. So.
I understand. I understand. We appreciate you taking the time, man.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see
Appreciate
you.
it. All right. Not bad. That was maybe our worst showing yet.
No, I don't think.
You don't think so?
I think we kind of.
I thought
I
it was
will
pretty
take
tough.
half of because the people watching didn't know the first one.
You don't think so?
No, and the fact that we got skin on our second guess is a
This-
little bit impressive.
The human body's I can't even say it. Integumentary system.
Yes,
That's a tough one.
nobody got that. Unless you
only
were a
go-
medical
Did you
student.
only go skeletal because I said skeletal?
Well, I was thinking I thought it went from the root word of integral.
Okay.
So I thought like internally and like the basis of the body is the skeleton.
I see what you mean.
And that's what I thought.
System and skin threw me off. I never would have thought of skin as like a system.
See, that's what this
But
is
it's
the
an
old
organ.
Trivial Pursuit days.
Okay.
The skin is the largest organ in the body.
Right. But I've
Because
never-
it secretes and it.
But I've heard it referred to as an organ. I guess I've just never considered that a system. The word system, like skin would have been like my last guess because of that word.
Yeah, it is. Because we see the skin as just like a covering.
Yeah.
It's like the apple peel, for lack of a better word. And
I know he's gone. This was the hardest question he's asked us yet. And we've done this probably, like 24 times?
Research it. Yeah. You
one-
either knew this or
Oh,
you had
this-
there was no way to work.
Well, and there was no context clues. Like
Yeah.
you couldn't work around a decade
Yes.
or a year or like an area it was just like, that was
No.
a tough question.
That was tough.
really, really tough. Kudos to anybody who got it. Let me check the comments real quick and see if anybody got that. Heather got it.
What?
Heather got
Heather is
Blackberry.
lying.
Heather got
Well,
Blackberry.
Heather Googled or Siri got
You
it.
think so?
But
Shout out to Andrew Scott. I think he got pesto. I think
Yeah,
he got. I know you're a big the whole typo thing, but I'm pretty
Well,
sure.
well, the
pretty
P
sure
and
he
the
got
O are next to each other, so pesto is. I wouldn't have thought of that one either.
And then somebody said in the group, should we not comment when we know the answers? Hey Jeff, absolutely comment when you know the answers. Eventually, we're going to do a lifeline where you and I are allowed to read through the comments. Yeah, we're going to need a lifeline here eventually. You don't think so?
But what is unfair of that is people like Heather who cheat and look at
Oh,
Google it
that's
and
true.
then they tell us the answer and pretend that they were smart and knew it.
That's true. Actually, real quick, Heather said she actually sold BlackBerry products. So
Then she might have known it.
She might
I was going to say that's one, if you knew it, if you were a BlackBerry owner, like back in the day when it was new and you
knew
delved into it, then you knew it.
I knew it.
Yeah, that would be one.
Madeline says she knew skin, but Madeline don't you work at a hospital? I'm pretty sure Madeline does something in the medical field. So I think she may have, that was kind of like Heather selling BlackBerry products. That would make sense.
On the inside.
Yeah, help us out.
Nobody
whenever you
knew
can.
Double Trouble, Stevie Ray Vaughan.
That's true. No, nobody
Nobody
did. Nobody did say Double Trouble.
Pride
You were
and
on
joy.
your own. You were on your own.
and
there.
joy.
Anything else you want to touch on before we leave today?
You want me to sing it to you before we go?
I don't want you to sing Double Trouble. There are certain things that I don't mind when you're humming along to. Double Trouble, I have very little interest.
I am actually now excited to go listen to Flooded in Texas because I can't think of it off the top of my head, so I got to find out if I know it.
Okay. Do you ever, we've talked about this before with music. I'm curious because my whole experience with music, half of my listening experience has been streaming. So you just get whatever you want. But what I've noticed with that is I don't get the oh my gosh, I haven't heard this in so long. Because once it was kind of in my rotation, it's kind of there. So those moments are kind of fleeting. But we were going down the road and it was so weird because you had mentioned Kid Rock the other day. And Kid Rock's Only God Knows Why came on. And I was like, I haven't heard this song in a decade plus. And it was fantastic. And then I kind of got sad because I was like, this is why I don't have these moments because of streaming. I just have everything at the tip of my finger at any point.
I don't know. Only God knows why. Can you sing it for me?
It's a slow, sad
sing
one.
it?
I can't, no.
Why?
I've said, again, now we're rambling, but my greatest regret, and I've told my girlfriend this, I've told family members this, one of my greatest regrets in life is just not having the ability to sing. Like
Well, that's not a regret. That's like a feel sorry for.
It is. Well, yes, because like it is one of those things where like you have it or you don't. And you can get better. Like I'm not saying like you're just stuck at where you're at, but like you're either gifted or you're not.
You know what's funny? And before we go even further, well, let me remind me of that part, the gifted or you're not. And when I was at the Guns N' Roses concert the other night, if you're Guns N' Roses fans, they played Night Train.
Okay.
And which is just a great song off of Appetite for Destruction. And my buddy that I was with says, I probably haven't heard this song in 20 years.
Yeah.
And my immediate thought is, how have you not heard this song in 20 years?
Yeah.
Because I'm from the era when it was a good album, you just put it in and you just let it play.
Right.
And I still play the CDs. I have Stevie Ray Vaughan's greatest hits. That's why I know I'm going to be able to go. Well, I'm going to YouTube it, but I'll just dig it up. But anyway, what was the other thing I just told you to remind me?
Gifted or you're not.
Oh, that's because one of the things with sports, and I'm sure you deal with this. Maybe in basketball it's different, but in the little league level, because baseball is still full of the great line from Youngblood when they say, "Thank God there's still a sport for middle-sized white guys." Youngblood's about hockey, but baseball, you can be a middle-sized white guy and be a professional baseball player. And you get into little league programs of all over, and you hear all these parents talking about, college scholarships and all this stuff for kids because they're a pretty good little leaguer. And even when I was at Division III college, and the guys are talking about getting drafted and going to and I always want to say to them, and this is the analogy I always give, it's like singing. If you're the people who can sing, roll out of bed and can sing. If you're a great athlete, you don't start as a decent athlete, an above average athlete, a pretty good athlete, and work your way up to LeBron James. When LeBron James came out of the womb, people said, "Oh my God, he's a freak." And that's what professional athletes are. And singers are the same way. You can't take a kid who can't sing in 4th grade and make him, Axl Rose.
Yes, there is. I've always said this, like, I think Alizé's greatest compliment gets lost on him. Like, I don't think people compliment him enough for this, but like, you always see different posts and stuff about like Scottie Pippen had no offers, and then he was the 5th pick in the draft, and like he went to NAIA Central Arkansas and stuff. And you've seen recently some of the stuff about Dennis Rodman had no offers, and Alizé went to JUCO and there he goes. The part that always gets lost on that is obviously like they all grew like 7 inches in like 2 years. But Alizé's greatest compliment is he stayed ready. Like he worked his butt off, he stayed ready, and then when he got his growth spurt, he took advantage of his opportunity and he was ready to do it. So I agree with you. Like there's this idea of like you either have it or you don't. And even the few examples where they're like, well, so and so that, there was always like an underlying factor. The compliment to those people is they stayed ready. But you just reminded me of that with just kind of like linking athletes and musicians. And like, I think people should compliment Alizé for that. I don't think Alizé should be complimented for making the league. His compliment should be for like always being ready. And when his opportunity knocked, like when he grew 7 inches and the opportunity came, he was ready. Like it wasn't like he moped in the corner because he didn't get what he wanted.
I saw an interview with Rodman.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of everything Rodman says you take with a grain of salt because he is a little bit out there.
Sure.
But he said his junior year in high school, he was 5'8".
Yeah.
And by the time he was 19, he was 6'8".
Yeah.
And so when you talk about why he didn't get any offers, how many 5'8" guys get offers? But then how many 6'8" guys get offers?
Yeah.
And
the most recent one that people forget is Anthony Davis. Because when Anthony Davis was a junior in high school, he was like 6'3". And by the time he got to Kentucky, he was 6'10". So when like
I didn't know that.
Yes, he was like a point guard.
So that's why he has guard skills.
That's why he has guard skills. And then all of a sudden he was 6'10". Now, I don't think Anthony Davis should be looked less of because he was blessed and got 7 inches. But what I would compliment Anthony Davis was like he stuck to the grind. Like he was like when he got his growth spurt and the opportunity came, he dove on it and he was ready to dive on it. So
No, but I love your analogy about singers. You can either sing or you can't.
No,
and I
it's-
know that they have voice coaches, and you can always improve at everything.
Oh yeah.
But
It's
you
one
don't
of my-
take you can't take a mediocre singer and make them a great singer.
It's one of my only true jealousies. Like like when I hear somebody who can really sing, I am so internally jealous because it's not a question of work ethic. It's not a question of like figuring it out. Like I could sing my entire life and it would never sound good.
So would you trade your basketball career for your singing career?
It's a good question because my basketball career, it's not like my basketball career was like great. I would say there was an earned to my basketball career that I don't think I would ever trade away. I didn't accomplish much, but what I did accomplish, I really earned it.
But you love basketball.
But I loved the process of it. So like, would I trade it for a gift that I could never work at? Like, I don't know, but I do know that I could never, like, I'm very willing to admit, like, I cannot sing and I could work at it every day and it would never happen.
You know the thing about guys that can sing?
What's that?
Chicks dig them.
Probably. Yeah, you can't. I mean, you can't. It's such a. I don't like. This is the other weird part about it. Like, I never viewed trade as like a commodity. Like, I've always thought like if somebody had to learn how to do something or somebody had to do it, they would learn it, right? But singing is a commodity. Like, there's only so many people that can really sing. And now,
Yes.
like, as the population grows, more and more people can do it. And there's incredible undiscovered talent still, even despite all the competition.
Because of all these shows.
Right.
It's shows.
But there's still like undiscovered talent. But there is a finite people on this planet right now that can sing well. And so to me, like, it is a commodity that is worth being jealous of. I've always viewed it that way.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. Anything else you want to touch on before I head out today?
No, Yankees, Red Sox in a tie for the
Okay.
last wild card. It is a dogfight. We have 20 games left, essentially 3 weeks. And the Phillies, over the next 13 games, play the worst teams in the world. They've got like the Mets, they've got the Orioles. Who else? Not the Mets. They have the Pirates, the Orioles, and some other disaster. The Cubs, I think. They open with the Cubs.
Okay.
And the Mets might be in there too. But the Mets are decent. But of their next 13 games, like the schedule has fallen at the Phillies' feet right now. If they're going to make a run, this is the time. And because they're almost out of time.
Braves are in.
It looks good.
They're in. I think they're in. Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Thank you to all of our sponsors. And be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all your local news. And we'll have more stories on the protest today at Geisinger, as well as the story from Montoursville School District regarding the world that we live in. Is that a fair way to say it?
I passed all that. I'm just back to Stevie Ray Vaughan. If the house is rocking, don't bother knocking. It's a gem.
Thank you guys for watching. I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina, and we will see you tomorrow.
See ya.